The silence inside Althorp House was never ordinary, but this time it sounded like a warning shot aimed directly at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's entire empire. Because behind those ancient Spencer walls, Princess Diana's own brother allegedly looked at a massive Netflix proposal tied to Meghan Markle and responded with 4 chilling words that instantly froze Hollywood. Is this a joke? And just like that, the fantasy collapsed. The carefully protected Diana connection that Harry and Meghan have leaned on for years suddenly looked unstable, exposed, even humiliating. Because when the one man protecting Diana's true legacy publicly questions your intentions, people start asking dangerous questions. Were Harry and Meghan honoring Diana or building a business around her pain? For years, the Sussex brand has operated around one emotional truth that always kept public sympathy alive: Diana. Every interview, every emotional confession, every comparison to royal suffering somehow circled back to her shadow. And honestly, it worked. The audience saw Harry as Diana's wounded son. Meghan was positioned as the modern woman facing the same cold machine that once destroyed the Princess of Wales. But according to reports swirling around the latest Netflix development, Charles Spencer allegedly reached a breaking point after seeing a proposal connected to the upcoming 2027 anniversary of Diana's death. This wasn't just another documentary. This was supposedly designed as a giant emotional event, a spiritual continuation of Diana's story with Meghan at the center of the emotional comparison. And that's where everything exploded. Because Charles Spencer is not just another royal relative sitting quietly in the background. No, he is Diana's blood, Diana's protector, the man who watched his sister get hunted by cameras, manipulated by institutions, and emotionally destroyed under the glare of global obsession. Althorp is not some tourist attraction to him, it's sacred ground. Diana rests there, her memories rest there, her private pain rests there, and suddenly Hollywood wanted access to that pain again, packaged as prestige television. Sources claim Netflix wanted more than interviews. They reportedly wanted archives, unseen footage, handwritten material, emotional legitimacy. They needed Spencer approval because without it, the project would always feel incomplete, artificial, unauthorized. And when Charles allegedly saw Meghan positioned as a key emotional narrator in Diana's story, something inside him reportedly snapped. That's when the whisper started becoming louder inside royal circles. People began openly asking whether Meghan's connection to Diana had crossed the line from tribute into strategy. Think about the pattern everyone keeps noticing: the jewelry, the styling, the emotional interview setups, the repeated references to being silenced, isolated, mentally overwhelmed. Critics have even called it Diana cosplay, and whether people agree or not, the accusation itself has become impossible to ignore. Every public appearance started looking less accidental and more carefully symbolic. Diana's iconic Cartier watch, Diana-inspired poses, Diana language, Diana parallels. To supporters, it was emotional respect. To critics, it was branding. And allegedly, Charles Spencer saw it as something much darker, a commercialization of trauma disguised as tribute. What makes this situation truly explosive is Prince Harry himself, because now he looks trapped between two worlds that are tearing each other apart. On one side is Meghan, his wife, his California life, his media empire. On the other side is Diana's blood family, the people who once promised at her funeral to protect her sons from becoming prisoners of the institution that hurt her. And now those same people allegedly believe Harry himself has become trapped in another machine entirely, the celebrity machine. That's the heartbreaking twist nobody expected. Charles Spencer once stood in Westminster Abbey defending Diana's children from exploitation. Now reports suggest he believes he's defending Diana's memory from being turned into content. That is devastating, absolutely devastating for Harry emotionally, because this criticism is not coming from tabloids anymore. It's allegedly coming from his own mother's side of the family. And then comes the part making palace insiders whisper even louder behind closed doors: Prince William. Because suddenly there are growing rumors about an unspoken alliance forming between William and Charles Spencer. Quiet, strategic, ruthless. Think about how dangerous that combination really is. William protects the future monarchy. Charles protects Diana's legacy. Together, they hold enormous emotional power over public perception. And according to royal commentators, William has reportedly been furious for years about the way Diana's memory keeps being commercialized through interviews and streaming deals. So when Charles Spencer allegedly blocked this project, many insiders saw something much bigger happening behind the scenes. Not just family disagreement, coordination, a silent operation to shut down the Sussex version of Diana's story without Buckingham Palace ever needing to publicly attack Harry and Meghan themselves. What makes this entire situation even more dangerous for Harry and Meghan is that Charles Spencer's rejection didn't just damage one documentary idea, it shattered the illusion that the Sussexes still had unlimited access to Diana's emotional legacy. Because for years, people assumed Harry carried permanent ownership over his mother's story. But suddenly, the world was reminded of something uncomfortable. Diana belonged to more than just Harry. She had a brother, a blood family, a private history outside the royal machine. And now that blood family appears to be drawing a brutal line in the sand. According to insiders, Charles Spencer allegedly viewed the Netflix proposal as the final proof that Diana's memory was being transformed into commercial currency. Not remembrance, not healing, currency. And once that suspicion entered the public conversation, everything around the Sussexes started looking different. Every interview suddenly felt more calculated. Every emotional callback to Diana started feeling strategically timed. Even supporters began quietly wondering whether the line between tribute and monetization had finally disappeared completely. Inside Montecito, the pressure reportedly became intense because this wasn't just about family embarrassment anymore. It was about survival. The Sussex brand was built on emotional storytelling connected to royalty, pain, exile, and inherited trauma. But without Diana as the emotional bridge connecting audiences to Harry and Meghan, what exactly remains? That's the terrifying question now hanging over every meeting, every contract, every streaming negotiation. Their lifestyle content has struggled to dominate culture. Their projects keep generating headlines, but not always long-term loyalty. And now, the one emotional storyline that consistently kept public fascination alive has been publicly challenged by Diana's own brother. That kind of damage doesn't quietly disappear in Hollywood. It spreads. Executives talk. Agents whisper. Invitations slow down. Suddenly, brands began asking whether association with the Sussexes brings prestige or controversy exhaustion. And honestly, the timing could not be worse. Because the closer the world moves toward the 30th anniversary of Diana's death in 2027, the more emotionally protective people become over her legacy. Diana is no ordinary historical figure. She exists almost like emotional royalty itself. Untouchable, sacred, generational, and Charles Spencer understands that better than anyone alive. That's why his alleged rejection carried such devastating emotional force. It wasn't a palace statement written by lawyers, it wasn't a cold corporate email, it felt personal, protective, furious, like a brother watching history repeat itself in front of his eyes. Royal insiders claim Charles still carries enormous guilt over Diana's Panorama interview and the manipulation surrounding it. He witnessed firsthand how vulnerable she became when media companies turned her pain into ratings gold. So when another giant media project allegedly attempted to build emotional profit around Diana's suffering again, reports suggest Charles saw echoes of the same exploitation returning in modern form. That's why the Oprah comparisons became so explosive behind palace walls, because many critics already believed Meghan's interview mirrored Diana's emotional confessional style almost too perfectly. The isolation, the claims of silence, the mental health struggles, the institution versus the outsider narrative. To supporters, it reflected history repeating itself. But to skeptics, and allegedly to Charles Spencer himself, it started looking disturbingly performative. And once that interpretation gained momentum, Meghan's entire public image entered dangerous territory. Instead of appearing as Diana's natural successor emotionally, critics began portraying her as someone recreating Diana's tragedy for modern celebrity influence. Whether fair or unfair, that perception became toxic, especially once Diana's own brother reportedly rejected the comparison outright. Meanwhile, Prince William reportedly remained silent publicly, but that silence itself became suspicious, because palace insiders insist William has long hated what he allegedly sees as the over-commercialization of Diana's memory. He rarely speaks emotionally in public, but when it comes to his mother, people close to him say the wounds never truly healed. So when Charles Spencer allegedly blocked the Netflix project, many observers noticed something chilling. William didn't defend Harry. He didn't intervene. He didn't soften the blow. And that silence spoke volumes. Suddenly, people began suspecting that William and Charles Spencer were operating with quiet understanding behind the scenes, one protecting the monarchy, the other protecting Diana. Harry, meanwhile, appeared isolated in the middle, emotionally stranded between California celebrity culture and the family history he can never fully escape. But perhaps the saddest part of all this is the realization now spreading across royal watchers worldwide. Harry may have spent years trying to preserve Diana's spirit, spirit, only to discover he no longer controls how the world interprets that mission. Because once Charles Spencer allegedly closed the gates of Althorpe emotionally and professionally, the symbolism became impossible to ignore. Diana's brother was effectively saying, enough documentaries, enough emotional repackaging, enough using grief as narrative fuel. And whether people support Harry and Meghan or not, that message landed like an earthquake across both Hollywood and royal circles. The ghost of Diana suddenly felt reclaimed by her blood family, not the streaming industry. And now, as tension quietly spreads from Montecito to Kensington Palace, one terrifying question continues haunting everyone involved. If the Diana connection is finally fading, what happens to the Sussex empire without it? Because behind all the headlines, the silence growing around Harry and Meghan right now feels different, heavier, more final, like doors inside the royal world are slowly closing one by one. And this time, they may never reopen.